Kristin Burritt, congratulations. I am super, super excited for you. Dude, you called it, you guided your clients through this. It's actually really tough transaction. And you guys the praised, even though you went above asking price.
Oh, like a lot above. I had done my math. It's all about the market study. Know your market, know the trends. Um, yeah, I'm thrilled. And what they're thrilled about, I mean, they were prepared with extra cash, but now they have choices and options. So it's
Right,
great.
right. So, I mean, I have to ask, how many offers did you beat?
I don't know. I just know they were in multiple by Saturday afternoon already. And then there was a deadline on Monday. So
Have you spread the news?
not yet. I mean, they know because
Oh, they.
they,
Well, that's what I was asking. Have they? Do they
yes,
know?
and it was hard because they were one of them was having like a medical procedure today, so he's like, "I'm really happy. I just can't talk right now." So, so yeah, no, it's just I think we were holding our breath, and I'm just really thrilled. I'm really thrilled, and
$1 million realtor in the house.
and on top of it, they were people that were really interested in the train. They really wanted to be able to take it, and so I was also kind of holding my breath over the vote. But Leander's keeping the train,
Nice.
so yeah. So it's been like just in general, it's been great.
So,
It's
you-
been
so you,
so good.
why did it look like you were crying?
No, I mean it's good. Sometimes there's a
Okay,
happy
there you go.
cry.
That's better.
There's that sense of relief because I didn't really sleep very well last night. But I will
Because you were worried
say,
about today.
yeah, I wasn't. It's, there's just always that little bit of doubt. Appraisals can kind of go crazy on you sometimes, even with all the research that you do. Ultimately, you don't have control. You can only look at the knowledge, the facts, the statistics that are out there, right? So yeah, and I think that comes back to too, though, David, is that these are not just like numbers or a paycheck to us. Like at DNA, we care about these people. We like end up planning baby showers with these people. I mean, this is like we care a lot, and so hopefully I'll get some sleep tonight.
My little baby has grown. My little
Are
baby.
you proud of me? Are you
Dude,
proud?
I'm super proud. Like, genuinely, I'm extremely proud.
Thank
You
you.
called it. You suggested what to do. They did it. They follow your lead. And now look, they have their house.
It's a great house too.
And dude, you hustled. I mean, like, you were on top of it, sending out emails, looking at what you thought was going to interest them and sending it over to them for houses, and then you basically guided them. So you did really good. Really proud for you. For
Thank
all of
you.
you. I mean, I'm pretty sure they're psyched right now.
Actually, it's very nice because they work with Tom, and so Tom's had his little like proud moments too, where they're at like a faculty lunch and they say something nice about Tom's wife, and so it feels nice for Tom too. So yeah, it's great. It's very good. Um, and well, I mean, so I'm doing great. How are you? Let's catch us up on you.
I've been working really hard with our admin Adriana. We're bringing a house to the market up in Pflugerville, and then we have another one today that we're gonna go take pictures. Well, the we have the photographer with Virtuance going over to take a picture up in Elgin for another house. And then we're bringing another one in Austin Colony, which, by the way, if you're free on Friday, we're
As
gonna
in
fix it
tomorrow?
up. Shit, tell me about it, right? Yeah, we're gonna need to stage it for our client.
Mhm.
So I want to make sure that the pictures come out lovely, Lovely.
Got it.
And there's a couple of things that need to be fixed that we're gonna do for him, like carpet cleaning and stuff like that.
Okay.
Just so they can get the most money out of it. Make no mistake, the market is shifting. You can
I
feel it.
know.
I feel it. I feel it. And so now, it's gonna be interesting this next couple of months, or at least till the end of the year. It's gonna be really interesting to see what happens.
Yep.
But yeah, we're busy. We're busy right now, which is great.
It is. It's a good problem. I mean, it's not a problem. It's a good thing. Um, I it is a time of year if you have kids in school or certainly, I have a husband who's also a teacher, right? So this time of year there's this weird mix of exhaustion. There's 12, 13 days left. Tom is almost finished, actually. He finishes before Liam. But there's that exhaustion, but the excitement, like, oh, we're almost to summer, we're almost there. But it's a weird mix. It's a weird mix, to be sure. And now for me, transitioning from being a teacher years ago to doing real estate, this really, for me, I feel like ends up being my busy time, especially for people with families that are trying to, move during the summer. But I'm excited. I'm here for it. Absolutely here for it. And yesterday, I treated myself because I had done a bunch of work, got a lot of errands and work done. And so I went and checked out our community highlights, which is Casa Costa in Old Town Leander. It is, they took an old house and completely renovated it. And it's, amazing coffee. Pretty sure it's Brazilian coffee, actually, because the coffee's very good. And then the baked goods. I mean, to me, I feel like my vision of heaven has always included a lot of pastries and baked goods. So walking into this building, that's what it's like. It's just, things you could only dream of existing are laid out before you. Plus they do custom cakes. Plus they have salads and quiches and things like that. So I just got myself a little salad so that I could have some pastry. So that's what I did. And I got this it was like this flaky croissant kind of thing, but it was stuffed with bananas and Nutella. It was so good. It was so good.
Really good.
Really good. And I got something for Liam and it looked almost like a beignet, like the fried donuts from New Orleans, but then it was filled with Nutella, the hazelnut chocolate. It was
you should throw a Jimmy Fallon in there. Like, it's so good. It's so good.
So good. Yeah.
So good. So good.
Oh, speaking of Jimmy Fallon, let's take a moment for our boy Stephen Colbert, because this is totally weird. So he had COVID and then started testing negative, came back to work, and but it said he felt like he had cold symptoms. Well, then Sunday night or Monday, they came out and said that he tested positive again. So they don't know if he got reinfected or if his body did this weird thing where it beat it down long enough to test negative only for it to flare up again. But they basically canceled live shows till further notice with him, which really freaks me out. I mean, I am so attached to Stephen Colbert. I just think he's brilliant and funny, and I adore him. And so I'm very sad. But so I've been watching more Fallon. I'm also a Fallon fan, no, to be sure. I've always liked Jimmy, but
it's funny that you say that, because Stephen Colbert, he actually, a couple of shows back, he was he was doing his show, and then he gave out a shout out to Jimmy, not Jimmy Fallon, but Jimmy.
Kimmel?
Yeah, because he got sick with COVID, and then all of a sudden it's this guy. So,
Well, I have more bad news about that. My father texted me this morning, and my dad, who just turned 80, has tested.
shit.
Yes.
Really?
I mean, I think he's okay so far, but, and I mean, how sad, because we think he got it at the dinner, special dinner that my brother put together just for his birthday. So it was like all of his granddaughters were there from my brother's side, and like their significant others. And my dad was just over the moon about this dinner. So it's just such a bummer that he walked away. And he's double boosted too.
Really?
I just think the new variants are, I mean, I think it's way more contagious. It seems like it's less serious. It's not going into the lungs as much as the first few variants did. So,
Well,
well,
that's a positive thing. At least, always look at things in the positive way, right?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
I just got to stay on top of him though, because I worry that my dad's. I do think that one of the things with COVID is that you can kind of get more seriously ill more quickly and not realize it. You know what I mean? Like, I've heard stories of people coming into the emergency room with really low blood oxygen levels, and they felt bad, but they didn't realize it was that serious. So that's just one of those things you got to stay on top of, for sure.
I was going to ask you, are you still wearing your mask when you go to, like, I don't know, the grocery store?
I've started wearing it again.
You did?
Yeah, honestly, I started wearing it again because of the Colbert thing. I think I just was like, okay, I don't know what's going on here. And also, I also happened to notice that the anchors for the Today Show, who had just had COVID a few weeks ago, suddenly had COVID again. And I thought, okay. So
in the Today Show, is it it's not Noah, right?
That's maybe the Daily Show. No, the Today Show is the morning. Like we put on the Today Show when we first wake up as we're getting ready and moving around. But like almost all of the anchors have had it at least once, but a few of them have now had it twice within just the last few months. So I'm just realizing that where I thought from having it I would have some immunity, I don't think that's necessarily true anymore.
Yeah, not really.
But anyway, on to our topic. I see a person in the waiting room ready to join us. Are you ready?
Dude, make this make a huge introduction, please. She excited?
We'll find out.
All right.
Okay, hopefully she turns on her camera. Hello?
No makeup. No makeup, all natural.
Hi!
What's
oh, wow.
up?
You just look like an angel. You're so backlit.
Oh, my windows.
Oh, yeah.
Right after this, I have to take down my curtains.
Are you back in New York?
Yes. And
you got the accent already? New York.
Yep. New York. New York. No.
Do they, being serious, do they really talk like that?
The people from here? Yeah, for sure.
I see, Family Guy, and well, I used to, not anymore. I don't watch TV anymore, but they do the accents, and I'm like, they're just, playing around. I don't think people really talk like that.
No, it definitely can be real, especially for like Long Islanders. Like Long Islanders have a crazy accent. Long Island.
I know. I remember Aunt Bob. She when I first got to be good friends with her, and she would have this, like, she would put on the accent, and I was like, that's not real, it's a joke. And then I went to visit her family on Long Island, and they really talked like that.
Yeah. Well, they must say the same about us over here in Texas, right? Like, well, darn my cats.
Yeah.
Or, howdy.
It's funny because my grandmother was a Southerner, like her whole life. And well, at the very end, she ended up in Pennsylvania, but for a lot of her life, she lived in the South. And there was, I think Flo was the name of the character on Mel's Diner. And she would go, well, kiss my grits. And my grandmother actually looked a lot like that actress. So I grew up with like people asking my grandmother to say that all the time. And I was like, what is wrong with you people? Kiss my grits. What?
Well, we're on the topic now. I'm curious to know what do you guys think like when you hear Mexico or Mexico? Like, how do they talk? Like, is there
fast?
Yeah,
my perception is that it's fast.
Puerto Rican people.
Spanish.
Puerto Rican people are like the fast talkers.
Oh, really?
That makes sense though, because I felt like I knew many more Puerto Ricans growing up in Pennsylvania and New York than I ever knew Mexicans. So Texas, it makes logical sense.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of Puerto Ricans like emigrated to New York City, ended up like in New York City, and that kind of trickled down the Eastern coast. So maybe that's why, but I remember even just when I was taking Spanish in school, it was like hearing people really speak it.
Oh yeah, it's crazy. Even right now, like it's a client that's from Puerto Rico. I met them for the first time, and then they started speaking Spanish, and I was almost ready to go get a translator because it was just so fast.
Yeah, something that I also didn't realize growing up is that it's like every like country kind of has their own version of Spanish, so like Puerto Rican Spanish is different from like Mexico Spanish is different from like Spain Spanish, like everybody kind of has their different like dialect of the language, and that's something that I like did not realize. So I'm sure in school we're taught like the most basic like level of Spanish, but I think it's not really how most Spanish speaking people speak.
No, not at all. And even I think if you have, I don't know if it's Netflix or what platform, you know how you can change, you put a TV show and you can watch it in Spanish, Portuguese, but then they have like Spain, and then you have Mexican, and then you have it's funny how the language varies.
Yeah.
See, wouldn't it be funny if they did that with American dialects, like New Yorker, Texan, Californian? That would be very funny.
There are words and sayings that are regional that if you said them somewhere else, like it's like pop and soda, like in the North it's pop, but
no, that's more Midwest pop. Because I didn't call it pop. I called it soda.
Oh, okay.
But hey, Kaila, dude, I miss your show. I miss your show. I really wanted to go and see it, and your mom scared the bejesus out of us.
Yeah, because I was afraid I got it at Champagne opening.
Yeah.
And then having the newborn wife was like, dude, I think we should wait. And I was like,
definitely.
But I heard it was an amazing show.
Yeah, it was really fun. I'm definitely missing it. It was such a good time. But I'm sure there will be another for you to come see when things aren't so, insane.
Maybe in New York.
Yeah. New York.
Are you auditioning?
Yeah, I just recently auditioned for a national tour, and then next weekend I have an audition for an off-Broadway workshop. So fingers crossed, we'll see how it goes. And that one's in person, so that's gonna be weird because like I don't really go to a lot of in-person auditions anymore. Like it's pretty much all like self-tapes, so it's gonna be weird, but I'm excited.
Fingers crossed. Hopefully you get it.
Fingers crossed.
So
well, yeah, I was gonna say our topic, we are talking, I mean, broadly about feminism, which is why my soon-to-be 25-year-old daughter living by herself in New York City. I cried enough a week ago. But I feel like my vision of what feminism means has changed so much because I've learned from you, Kaila. So that's why I really wanted to have you here for it, because I think each of us come at it like, what does the word even mean, and what lens do we see it through, you know?
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
so
and I think
I was just gonna say, I think really my first question to you is like, for your generation, what do you think the idea of feminism even means?
yeah, well, I feel like it has taken a lot of different forms, because there is a feminism that is um, hurtful in a way that it doesn't include all people that identify as women. Like there's a lot of feminism that doesn't make, trans people feel welcome. You know what I mean? And so I think I used to just be like, oh yeah, like feminism, like women power, but I think it's actually a lot more complex than that, because I think um, you have to include like everyone that identifies as a female in like true feminism, and also feminism is not just for like straight white women either, which I think is another like really important thing, because you see a lot of you know uh white people and like white celebrities, speaking out for feminism, but you also have to include all people of color and marginalized communities and, unhoused women. You have to include everybody. So I think that's really what I've learned recently, is that feminism is very complex. At least in my opinion, like the best kind of feminism is um, has a very wide range. Um, and I also think, that men can be feminist and should be feminist. I mean, I obviously think like everybody should be feminist, because, everything in our society has been patriarchal since, the dawn of time. And it's like, we want like equity rather than, equality almost, because we want to be true to the fact that like we are as, valid and strong and powerful as like the male side of things. You know what I mean?
Yeah. How about you, Kristin? What is it? That's actually pretty good. What is feminism to you? Something.
Well, it's funny because when I think about feminism, where I stand, right? To me, I was born in 1971. So I remember the hippies, like the hippies idea, and women that were like burning their bras. Like that was like a huge thing. And so my vision, I think my mom was a pretty strong role model. She's strong, but she also took on a lot of traditional roles with my dad. So I definitely got, messaging kind of from all sides. I think maybe I went backwards though when I became more associated with the kind of evangelical church too, and their perception of femininity and what it looks like in relation to men and that kind of thing. But for me, when I hear the word feminism, I literally imagine like the bell bottoms, the women like burning their bras. And so I'm grateful, because I feel like what Kaila has shown me is that it is so much more nuanced than that. So much more nuanced. And when you start to kind of open your eyes and look around, it's terrifying to see the inequity. And now I'm wondering really if it needs to move past feminism to just true equity for all, because now you've got non-binary. So not just trans, but you've got non-binary at all. So people that don't want to be gendered. And then you've got certainly LGBTQ plus IA that are also fighting for rights. I think feminism, if I really feel about, and this is just Kristin's interpretation, right? Certainly not an official one, but like I said, for me, it was sort of like bell bottoms, hippies, burning bras. But before that, it was sort of like the women's suffragettes, like the ones that were just trying to get the right to vote, that kind of thing. And so that was probably my mom's idea of feminism, right? Was that like the right to vote. And then now it's just continually changing, but in a lot of ways we're still fighting for the same things.
Yes.
Infuriating.
Yes.
On a side note, when you said the year that you were born, showing some kids a house, and they said, "You were born in the 1900s." It made me feel old because they asked me what year.
My God.
Listen,
we all were. I was born in the 1900s. That's so funny. That makes us sound like we're like.
But it sounds pretty funny. I think it sounded funny because I started laughing.
It's funny.
I didn't mean it in a bad way. But dude, yeah, we were born in the 1900s. It is what it is, people. Get with it.
It is. That's life, baby.
So, I don't know. So obviously for all genders, right? Equality and opportunity, same equality and opportunity for all genders. That's what we'll come up with.
I mean, that's what I think, regardless of everything, right? Regardless of gender, skin color, income, like all of that should be moot. I think it's very interesting because when you look back, I was listening to this fantastic podcast this morning called Breaking the Glass Slipper. And, there was this idea that perhaps some of the things that we struggle with are just things that have been passed down even genetically, right? So that the idea of a patriarchal system or a monarchy, so much of this country came from European ancestry where it was monarchy and there were kings and queens. And so a lot of our fascination with that kind of thing, like, is it really passed down? And I think the big thing goes back to like 1950-ish when the first birth control pill came about, because before that, that's really why there wasn't equality, because it was seen as a necessity. Like, the women could get pregnant. If they did get pregnant, they had to stay home. They couldn't work. So, I think that's maybe why the whole abortion thing has become such a hot button at this point, is because it feels like we're back at 1950. It feels like we're back at that point where women didn't feel like they had the choice to have children or not. There wasn't even birth control really widely available. Thoughts, Kaila?
Yeah, well, I mean, in terms of feminism, I think a big part of this discussion is like, when has there ever been a law in the court about women's bodies? I mean, about men's bodies? Like, never. And it's like, I saw this joke that was like, it was just a picture of like, I guess, it wasn't really a joke. It was the truth. It was a picture of these like 5 white men. And it was like, this is a panel on abortion. And it's like,
wow.
If you are a man, period, like, you shouldn't be talking about it. But especially if you're just like a wealthy, privileged white man, you shouldn't be talking about it. Because I think it's just a whole thing where like, why is our country, and when you say our country, I think you also kind of have to boil that down to white men, because unfortunately most of our Supreme Court is white men, or at least white people. I saw a graphic of all of the Supreme Court people, and there was like 5 women and like 3 Black people. Like, most of them are old white men. And it's like, why are these old white men like so obsessed with women's bodies and you know, our own autonomy? Like, it's just, I think it's really really eye-opening to see that men's rights have never a single time been threatened. Meanwhile, we had to, you know, fight to vote. There's never been a female president. We have had to fight for abortion rights multiple times, and we still are. We have been for so long. And I think it's just like, when people want to say, you know, that the patriarchy doesn't exist, I just want to say, like, okay, so why isn't there a law that, you know, it's like saying that all men should get vasectomies. You know what I mean? Like, there, and that's never even been mentioned.
Right.
And you know, when you talk about birth control, everybody says, why would you not just stop it at the source, which is obviously the man? And there's been a lot of talk and discussion about the fact that I guess male birth control pills were starting to be developed, and then they just realized that like no man was going to want to deal with the symptoms, so they just like nixed the project.
Oh wow.
And it's like, and it's crazy because we're women and we're lesser than, we're just expected to take the responsibility not only of the birth control but also of all of the side effects that come with that, you know, and to put our health, our happiness, because birth control can cause depression and anxiety, like we're supposed to put all of that on the line just so the guy doesn't have to have any responsibility. And then God forbid if our birth control fails, then we're also forced to have the baby. You know what I mean? And that's just like, it's like,
Yeah,
why
but it goes a step farther though. It's really purity culture, right? Because they're saying if you were a good girl, you wouldn't be having sex outside of marriage.
right?
So that's the root.
Which also
If
just
you
goes
weren't
back
such
to,
a slut, you know.
right, and which also just goes back to our country's roots in Christianity, because you know, growing up in a very Christian world, a lot of my friends, when feminism was first a hot topic when I was younger and like you know, middle school and high school, I feel like we were kind of discouraged from being feminists at church, because they, you know, very much subscribe to the vision of a woman, you know, being a
Quiet helper.
Yeah, like a quiet
helper.
housewife, you know, like they talk about Proverbs 31 women, and you know, you stay home and you take care of the kids and you cook and you clean and you just are a strong wife for your strong husband. And so I feel like that's another thing that like Christians just feel like they're not supposed to be feminists. But I actually think that it's all encompassing, because I think true feminism empowers you to be a woman in whatever way you want to be. So like true feminism is if your friend is like, I actually want to be a stay-at-home mom and I want to provide for my husband and I want to cook and clean for him and that's what makes me happy. True feminism is saying, great, you know, as long as you're happy.
Right.
Like,
you do you. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's another thing, is that a lot of people get spooked by feminism because they think that it means that every woman wants to like go to war and run companies and be the president. And it's like, there are definitely women that want those things, but also I think you have to acknowledge everyone and say like, if being a traditional wife in a traditional marriage is what makes you happy, great. You know what I mean? So I don't know, I think it's all connected, but it's all also very complicated, for sure.
Do you have thoughts, David? David's
Where do I start?
eyes glass over.
Can I say something as a guy? Listen, I get it. And it's hard, right? Because in all honesty, I mean, yeah, my mentality changed as well. And I mean, still have my mom, I have my wife, I have my 2 daughters, and it's evolving. It's different the way you see things, right? And I love them all, and these are people that I want the best, nothing but the best for them. So yes, I agree with Kayla. There shouldn't be anybody governing your body. You do what you want. And especially if somebody's going to take a decision to put a law out there, it should be somebody that has gone through that stage, right? Not somebody that is just clueless or is thinking from a source of religion or anything like that. It's your body. You should have control of what you do. 110% support that. But at the same time, she made a really good point. The people who are appointed right now, unfortunately, have not gone through it. So how do you if they're the ones making the decision, Supreme Court, how do you I can't say educate them, right? Because everybody has their own thoughts, but we need
And if
to.
they're men, it's not like they can get pregnant and have a baby.
Exactly.
Right.
That would change the world if every man could do that just once.
Through the process themselves, and there's no way they're gonna know. So I guess the only way is just making your voice heard.
You know,
yeah, and I think
I'm sorry,
I was
baby.
just gonna say that I think it's also we need to elect more women. Like the Supreme Court is supposed to be a reflection of the population of our country, which is much more equal in terms of men and women. And so I think we need to appoint more women. Like it's crazy that there's only like 5, or that's definitely not correct. I don't know the exact number of women, but it's very low, and that is just like, that's wild.
Well, and I just want to say, like, as a teacher, it's fascinating to me because I don't know where the great shift happens. Because think about when you're like in elementary school and even middle school and some high schoolers, right? The majority of the time, in my experience, our top students were girls, like very, very often. But that somehow when it comes to like running your community or your country, suddenly we look to the guys. It's just that's such a strange thing to me. Given that, girls, I've always seen them with a natural inclination towards leadership. So anyway.
I mean, so this is the thing. Even though I said all of this, right, that I agree with y'all, I am really strong on the point that the person who should get the position, or even talking about the pay inequality, I think it should be reflected on your ability to do the work as well, right? Not just because you're a woman means that you get the position. It also has to reflect on your ability to perform that job, right? We're all in agreement with you have to
Yeah,
have.
I mean that's a really hard. That's another like gender box though, because without affirmative, action, without being conscious about it, people fall through the cracks because it's a flawed system.
It is, and I know this. I mean, man, I hate because I don't even want to bring this up, but I lost the listing to somebody just because she was, and this is in real estate, just because she was a woman. So I get it. You have to support, but at the end of the day, I think you have to win your battles for the skills that you bring to the table.
Yeah, I think that the main important thing there is just not. I think the issue is that the assumption has long been that the man is automatically the better candidate because he's a man. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but none of it.
I almost think / wish that there would be a way to separate the person from the skill set when hiring and appointing, because maybe if you didn't know if it was a man or a woman and you didn't know the color of their skin or their gender, and you were literally just looking at like a resume or, you know, a dissertation, something like that, that would be better. And I think we would automatically end up with a much more diverse range. Very because I think, you know, it's actually crazy. And I'm sure you guys have heard about this, but even in real estate, I've seen a lot of things that say if a Black family lives in a home and has photos of their family, like photos of all of their Black family, and it comes and gets, you know, appraised, when they did like a study, when they replaced it with photos of a white family, it was appraised higher. And it's just like
I remember hearing that one, and it was hard to believe, but I think it was true.
Yeah,
it's disgusting.
Like, yeah, it's just, I just think I wish that there was no consideration for that. You know what I mean? Because affirmative action is important because the amount of jobs and job security for minorities is like so insanely lower than for, you know, non-minorities and non-people of color. So I think for that reason, affirmative action is very important. But I also just think that it would be helpful to not know anything,
of course,
about the person.
The way things should be done.
Right. But well, I also
go ahead.
No, go ahead, Kaila.
Oh, I was just going to say that I looked it up, and there are 3 Supreme Court justices out of 9, which, like, I guess you could say isn't that bad, but I would want at least 4, if not 5. And then on the House of Representatives, there are 121 women, but that is only 27.9%. Like, the House of Representatives should be as close to 50-50 as possible.
Well, that, I think, unfortunately, that comes back to, though, again, right? Like the representatives usually travel back and forth all the time. Mm-hmm. And so our society is still set up in such a way that in general, it's harder for moms to do that than dads. Like if you have kids, that's a thing, you know? Right. What I was going to mention is that I think it's important. The healthiest thing we can try and do, though, is just have an open mind and try to continue to learn, right? Because even my stance on Roe versus Wade and everything has changed over the years, because like in the beginning, I understood it to be just, it's life and every life is precious. And I still believe that is true. However, and I think Kaila, you may have been one of the people that even told me about this, how the stricter the laws, the worse the numbers are. Mm-hmm. So it's like, if there's better education, if there's better resources, then it becomes, then you don't have the necessity for it as much. Where if we go from this, you just shouldn't have sex, period, just don't do it, and that's your answer to everything, then abortions go up whether they're legal or not.
Yeah. So the famous phrase, which I will continue to quote, is, you are never going to ban abortions. You are only going to ban safe abortions. Because even if you ban abortion, there is going to be people out there that, especially in such a Christian country, there are so many young ladies who I'm sure if they were to get pregnant, they would be terrified because they would think that they were going to be disowned by their family, and their life was going to fall apart. And if they don't have a safe abortion available, the alternative for them is figure it out themselves rather than like be thrown out of their family. You know what I mean? So I think that's something that they are just so blatantly ignoring, and that's something that makes me feel like they just don't care. Like they just don't actually care, because if they actually cared, they would change the situation. Because it's like they don't, I also think they don't care about the unsafe abortions, because I can't find the word I'm looking for, but abortions, like unsafe abortions, are more often had by, you know, low income communities, poor communities, which of course systematically end up being the communities of color. And so they're like, oh, I mean, you know, really what they're saying is we don't care about these unsafe abortions because it's just like people are having them. So, and that's just like it's crazy. It's just really all connected. You know what I mean? And also there's this disgusting truth that the rich and powerful, they don't care, because if they cause an unwanted pregnancy, they'll just find someone to make the abortion happen. You know what I mean?
Right. They can afford to even fly them someplace else. Yeah.
Yeah, because if you have money and power, you can do anything in this country. So they're not afraid of anything for themselves. So it's just like,
well, and you know, Kaila and I talked a little bit when she was still home too, just that, you know, if you're truly pro life, then adoptions should be free. Like there should just be systems where, you know, if you choose to have the baby, there's automatic support, or it's very simple to find a family, you know. So it's just the rest of our systems do not support this idea. When people say that they're pro-life, they're pro-life until the child is born. But yeah, I just want to
structure that exists in our like systems, and like the foster system is so famously horrible and corrupt. So it's like, if you really want to make sure that every single baby is born, you have to start at the beginning and make sure that those babies have a safe, happy, healthy place to go when they are born, you know?
I don't, you know, I'm very conscious of the fact that I know people feel very passionately about this specific issue. And I do want to say that I really have been on both sides of this issue. Like hardcore, had a huge fight with my best friend years ago. And so I really have been on both sides, but it was one of those things where, like, if you just keep your mind open and continue to learn, like you might be surprised. And I think it's hard. Nobody really wants to suddenly come to a point where you're like, oh, was I like wrong before? Mm-hmm. No, like you make the best choices you can with the knowledge that you have. I just think that would be my request of everyone, is even if you don't agree with us right now, fine. But, you know, do your own educate yourself. Right. Because I think that's the thing.
Yeah. And also a lot of what I've seen, you know, even from my friends that are religious, is them saying, I am pro-life for me, but I am pro-choice for you. Yeah. For the simplest reason, which is I should not have anything to say about what you do with your body. Like, for me, if you were to say, like, I'm pro-choice for me, you know, maybe if you know that if you were to get pregnant, you're going to have that child, you know what I mean? But you're pro-choice for everyone else because you understand that you shouldn't get a say on how another conscious human being should go through their life and what they should do to their bodies. Because also, you know, pregnancy is very dangerous in reality. You know, obviously things have gotten better since medieval times when they were birthing babies in caves, but like but it's still dangerous and there are many complications, and it's just like you just you can't be, I don't know, you can't really have anything to say about someone else's life and their body, you know? And I think that's the bottom line for me, at least.
I do see the point though, where you know, somebody is pregnant past, let's say, month 3, month 4, and then all of a sudden they want to have an abortion. You know, it just depends on the situation. It depends where you are in life. Like you said, you've been, Kristin, you've been on both sides. It just depends where you are in life. And to Kayla's, the rich and powerful, yes, I mean, there's always going to be loopholes
Right.
for them. So,
But that's where, like, I just want the education and the resources so that the pregnancy never happens. Like, that's like, stop it before we get to the pregnancy. Because you know, the second you said that somebody, you know, gets 3 or 4 months along, that's what breaks my heart. Like, I can't even fathom it, only because I couldn't do it. But you know, I have friends who've been there. Like, I just think that's where it's just it's so much more than just that one issue. Like, it's there's so much more on both sides, like, in
because
resources and education.
It even goes back to sex education. Like,
yes, that's what I meant by education.
Like growing up in Texas specifically, Texas has horrible sex education.
Okay, will you please, just in brief, Kaila, will you share the story about you and Martha Ruby after that class, your first, like, few weeks of freshman year?
Oh my gosh. I mean, me and my college roommate, who we grew up in Texas together, and as part of orientation your freshman year of college at my university, they had this little assembly or whatever called like Sex on a Sunday, and it was a you know, like, sexual health class and lecture, and it was amazing. But her and I literally walked out of there being like, how are we 18, 19 and have never heard these things? Like, there were so many things that she spoke about that we were just like, it's almost embarrassing that we didn't know, because Texas just does bare minimum, you know. And if you really wanted no abortions to happen, you would teach completely comprehensive sex education, you know what I mean? So there's just so many disconnects along the entire route. It's like, if you don't want abortions, make better sex education. If you don't want abortions, make the foster system better. If you don't want abortions, make adoption easier and cheaper. You know, like, it goes on and on and on. Like, you can't, like, it can't be a standalone issue because it's all connected. You know what I mean?
Talking about education, I was just gonna say something. It's funny actually, because I saw it on it was a video that I was watching. Nowadays it must be a little bit complicated, because it used to be the birds and the bees, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then this guy goes on talking about, well, now it's not only the birds and the bees, now it's the bees and the bees, and the birds and the birds, birds that want to be bees and that want to be birds.
Yeah.
So I imagine that the education department's having a blast with that.
Yeah, because that is another thing, is that it is complex. And I mean, Texas definitely completely ignores the fact that gay people exist and that gay people have sex. Like, there was absolutely no same-sex sex education. And still, like, I literally was in college when I heard gay people talk about it for the first time, and I was like, this is all news to me, because they just want to ignore the fact that gay people, first of all, exist, and second of all, have sex. Like, oh, like, they just want to ignore it.
Ave Maria.
Exactly. And it's just like, guys.
Nah,
Please.
this was a really good talk though. This was a really good talk. Because you're right, it's a huge topic.
Mhm.
Sometimes people don't even, sometimes it's just the wrong perception. Just to go back to our topic, what feminism is, but in
Yeah,
reality,
what is it? Yep.
opportunity and equality for all genders.
Yeah.
Well, and you see now, David, why I wanted to have Kayla here, because like you asked me my definition of what my thought of it was.
Yeah.
And it's so ancient now. Like, I mean, that's where it started, but
Mhm.
I've just learned so much from my kid.
Yeah.
So,
And I mean, I think it's just always changing and always shifting. And I think our responsibility as people that want, not only equality but equity,
and to evolve and grow and
yeah,
learn.
I think our responsibility as people who want that and people who strive for that is to stay up to date and stay educated. My opinion of feminism when I was in high school changed drastically when I went to a very diverse university and realized that Black women had a completely different definition of feminism than my little privileged white girl like version. You know what I mean? So I think it's just like everybody has different experiences, and that creates their version, and you just have to listen. You just have to listen to others and be willing to know that you are just always going to be learning. So
Education, education, education. Just coming back to what Kristin said. That's where we should start, really.
yes,
And I mean, in
absolutely.
every aspect, in every aspect. I'm a firm believer. But anyway, so next week, on a slightly, but only slightly lighter topic, we'll be discussing real estate. Finally, it'll be like our 15th episode and the first time we actually really focus on it.
Oh my
But
gosh.
but it's getting real out here again.
Is there a
And
market shift coming?
so
Is there a market
Up
shift?
here too. It's getting real everywhere. It's tough. You guys are really about to, I mean, you are, but real estate agencies are like, that's a crazy job right now. I'm sure you'll discuss.
That'll be a pretty cool episode. Thanks a lot, Kaila, for joining us. Really appreciate it.
Yes, of course. Thanks for having me. This was great.
Always great seeing you as well.
Yes, you too.
I miss your face.
Miss you. See you soon, though.
Yes, I hope. All right, guys. Have a great day.
Take care.
Bye.
See you soon.
Big butt.